All right. Well, sorry for the other night. We tried to go live, but we had, I guess, some internet issues. So right now we have a couple computers going to make sure that we capture this for everybody, and so we can get this uploaded. I guess just a little brief before we get into it. This has been a few years for me with Charlie and Colleen, and been trying to deal with this personally, and now that that has failed to move forward in any type of resolution, and with the accounts that happened to Penny and Stuart in the last year, I felt that it was only right to come out and let the family know kind of what's really going on behind the scenes, and what's happening at the Shire sanctuary with Charlie Freak and Colleen. So with that, I'm just going to start with kind of my, I'm going to start with my events that started this, and kind of go from there. And I'm sure that Penny and Stuart will have some questions or some sharing their stories or input as we go as well. So yeah, let's just get started. Early 2020, mid to early 2020, I ran into Charlie Freak. It was the takedown of the Cabal A to Z. Most of us probably seen that multiple times. If not, go find it. However, I was back in 2020. It was aligning to what I needed to have in my world at the time. I did have a house fire and some other things that were going on, and it was just a culmination of things that pushed me into this direction of really getting close to them and building a relationship. So in early 2021, March, April of 2021, I was invited to go down there through Justin. I got a phone call from Justin saying that, if I asked me if I wanted to go down to Charlie and Colleen's, and again, this is after multiple conversations and interactions with them, and getting more and more involved with the show and the community, and wanting to expand and build the community like Colleen's dreams were back then, and still even somewhat of semi-current today. So by about May 2021, Justin and I drove down there. As far as I know, when we were driving down there, it was just going to be me, Justin, and coming down. As we were driving down, we found out that we had another group coming down, about 7 of them, and so we had a bigger community coming down there that was part of the Freak family. The people that were down there were people that I saw online. We spent time with them online with Charlie and Colleen and other groups that we had going at that time. So it wasn't unfamiliar faces or unfamiliar names that were coming down. And they, obviously they had their own interactions with Charlie and Colleen at that time, and I figured we were all showing up and starting to expand and grow this community. At that time, it was very exciting. There was a lot of energy around that, a lot of energy about bringing people down, or at least building the community. And for me, I ran into 3 people that kind of helped me connect dots during this time. It was Charlie Freak, it was Santos Bonacci, and Josh X. The video that got me was the 3-part series of the food that they did. It was a wonderful show, wonderful series, very informative of how we were supposed to eat. I took it very seriously, and my food drastically changed. My whole entire lifestyle changed around that, and yeah, so yeah, when we got down here, I guess the idea was, or the first plan was, to stay with Charlie and Colleen, me and Justin. But once we started getting down here and traveling down with the other group, they bought or rented a Airbnb. So we all kind of stayed in there for a little bit. There's about 8 of us, and it was a large Airbnb, but it just wasn't sustainable to stay in there a long time. And I had to go back to the States for a little bit to finish the events that I had taken, clean up some stuff and getting ready to come down here permanently and really build a community. It was a big move for me. It wasn't just a real quick decision to pack up my bags and really relocate myself to a different country that I had no idea anybody there. I didn't know anybody except for these 2 people and the group of people that did come down at that time. But other than that, I was moving into a different country. I had nothing, I didn't know anything about. So it was a big move, coming from the States and moving down there. We had to make sure that anything that we brought, we could get down there, and it's very minimal, because I didn't need very much at that time, and that was where we were headed to live off the land and to build this community and be frugivores and have a fruit forest and fulfill these dreams that we were hearing coming from Charlie and Colleen. So, excuse me. So yeah, I was down there a little bit, and I had to return to take care of some stuff in the States. I was there for a little bit, and then planning to come down. When I was planning to come down, that really coincided at the same time Justin was going to come up to the States. That was when I learned about Negative 48. Me and Justin met in, I believe, Dallas. And I was just going to stay there a weekend. He was going to, stay there a weekend and then continue his path to what he was going to do. And if anybody was following, that ended up being a year and a half of kind of traveling with Negative 48 or Michael Brian Protzman and Trump. We traveled a lot to a lot of the rallies. It was a great time with meeting a lot of people. Expanding the family, meeting a lot of family members that were part of the online community, and actually physically seeing them. It gave us a hub to really put the faces and the names and spend some time with each other, and it was a beautiful experience. So then when we were done with that, I came back down here to Mexico, and that was October-ish 2022. When I returned, again, I was ready to build and start the community as it was from the beginning. My direction and my input to the community was going to be building a house for myself and a fruit forest, and also to have have somewhere for family members to go if they wanted to heal and to do the work and be a part of this community as well. So I wanted to expand that. I wanted to get that going. When I did come down here, I guess the first initial idea of us coming down here, the first time with Justin, we were talking with Colleen and Charlie, is that we were all going to get a little piece of land, build a house on it, and then we'd have our different areas that we would take more lead in, right? My lead was going to be in the community fruit forest and the garden that's going to supply the food and start that going. I know a lot of people were excited about that. I know I was. I had a garden my whole life. My parents had a garden their whole life, so it was something that I wanted to do, and it was easy for me. So coming back down in October 2022. I let Colleen and Charlie know that was still my intentions of being here, and kind of wanted to get going. I was looking at land adjacent to their property because that's what Charlie suggested, that these were the areas that we could procure them and get legal paperwork after that. So, but what was offered to me was to build in Eugene's property that he started. At that same time, when we were coming back, Eugene was leaving. I didn't really know why right when I got here why he was leaving, but then I was informed by Charlie and Colleen that he was no longer part of the family, and things didn't work out, and he was leaving. Then that's when they offered me to build in that same land that Eugene started. I did have a little reservations just because of the situation. Didn't really want to, want to make sure that Eugene had a spot if he wanted to. He was part of the community from the get-go, so in my heart, I always wanted to make sure that if it did work out and he didn't, things did, he came back, that he would have a place to stay. So I decided to go ahead and build on that property. I started right away, right after we got back. Probably within a few weeks, a month, we were moving forward with the build. Immediately, I started to put the fence around the house, just to secure the house, to make sure that no wanderers would come in there, and we wouldn't lose any of the construction material or anything that we were starting to do in there. The push to get that done came from Charlie. He wanted to get it done really fast. I didn't really see too big of a push to get it done, but other than it'll help me get my house started faster, because the sooner that I could get the wall done, the sooner then I could start breaking ground on the house, and the sooner I could do that is the sooner that I could move into it and have a place of my own, where then I could move to the next step. So that's what we were doing. During that same time, myself, Justin, and Charlie and Colleen, we split it 3 ways to go in on a lawyer to have legal ownership of that property. Again, that was a property that Charlie and Colleen claimed prior to me getting there. They already started building on it. They had 2 cisternas, or underground, or in tanks in the ground for water, and they started the fence around that property as well. But it was just a fence more adjacent to their house, and it wasn't wrapping around the property. So I needed to complete that. But in the meantime, while we were building and waiting for the lawyer, we all gave, or the decision was to split it 3 ways, and we each gave $3,000 to procure that land and hire that lawyer to do so. As far as I know, nothing has been done. I'm pretty sure I did see a transfer of some money going to the lawyer at one time, way back in 2022, but I haven't seen any paperwork or any evidence of that moving forward. It may or may not have gotten done, but I was never informed of that. So yeah, from the beginning, I was at the job site pretty much every day, whether I was helping the guys build, managing the job site, designing the house that was going to be built, making sure that things were getting done at the level that I wanted to get them done. I had to have a background in construction, and I want to live in a safe house that I build, and I've built a few houses in my life, and it wasn't abnormal, for me to be in the construction site. So it was very, very easy for me to be over there, help the guys, teach them a little bit of kind of how we do it, and stuff like that. So the build continued. As we were going through the build, it was discussed that we were going to do a well. It would make sense to do a well to just get us off of being under the guise of the neighborhood that allowed water to come to the property, once or twice a week. It was something that would allow the community to expand once we invested in this well. It would give ample water for myself, Charlie and Colleen, and for other properties that were going to be that were being talked about, that we wanted to expand to, and just have the capabilities and have the infrastructure, so when this time did come, we could do so. And that the well, we got a few companies to come down and give us some estimates. It was moving forward as we were it sounded like it was moving forward. They requested to get a deposit from me. I said they, meaning Charlie and Colleen, requested to get a deposit from me. My deposit on that well was $5,000, and at that time it would pretty much cover half of the cost. And the decision on the well was that me and myself and Charlie and Colleen were going to split that two ways. Charlie and Colleen were going to have half of it, and then I was going to carry the other half. My half at that point, like I said, was about $5,000. And again, nothing's kind of came of that. And there's times that I was towards the end, I was needing some money, and I needed to get that money back. I was told throughout the build that that money was set aside, and we have the money for the well when we're ready to do it. We just need to get the right company, and that don't worry, that money's allocated and being set aside for the well, because the well was a pretty expensive project that we wanted to get done. So it made sense to me to have that money set aside. They informed me that the money was set aside, so that made me feel comfortable. So I didn't really worry about it too much until I needed it, because I was running out of money on my build, and I needed to get, I wanted to finish that. So as I realized that the well was not going to get done, I requested to get that money back so I could use it to put it into my house and continue my build. But that didn't happen. The first thing that I got from Colleen, she said, "Oh yeah, no problem. We have that money set aside. It should be no big deal. I'll get that for you, and we'll get back to you." A couple days went by, a week, I'm not exactly sure, and I asked Colleen again to, say what's going on with the money. Do you guys have it or whatnot? She informed me to go talk to Charlie, and I thought that was kind of weird because I was dealing with Colleen, and this is the first time she kind of pushed me off to Charlie. She didn't come with that conversation. She stayed out of it, I guess. I would wish she would have been a part of it, because I was discussing that situation with her prior to that. But she kind of exited out of that conversation after that. The conversation I had with Charlie was quite interesting. He did recognize that he had that money of mine, and it was set aside for the well. But since it was set aside for the well, that his suggestion was that I take some of my silver and cash it out and use that money to continue my build, and leave the money for the well there, so when we're ready we had that money there. Again, with some hesitation and reservation, I didn't take any of my silver and cash it out. I still requested and let him know that I would like to have my money back, and he just at that time said he'd get back to me and stuff like that. So this went on for a little bit. I kind of went back and forth with them personally, trying to get them to pay me my money on so I could use it to build the house. My money was the allocated money that I had to build the house was coming to an end, and I wanted to continue the build and keep the workers there, but it just didn't work. They weren't able to give me that money back prior to me running out of money for my build. And as soon as I ran out of money for my build and I wasn't over there all the time, it seemed like the communication and the conversations from them became very distant. I was still in contact with Colleen. I let her know what was going on with myself, and informed her of the situation that I was dealing with them, with not being able to get the money that I gave them. She apologized and said that they were having money issues at that time, and that was the first time they informed me that they were having some money issues. So I kind of pulled on my heart a little bit. I was having money issues, they were having money issues, so I could relate to it. But I still didn't really agree that the money that was allocated for a project was used for something else unbeknownst to me, especially if it was money, cash that I physically gave them. I did give them cash for that, the same as with the lawyers. At that time, I did have cash that I was dealing with. So there's no bank transactions with that, unfortunately. I wish there was. I wish I did have bank transactions for these things, some paperwork, but at that time, I was believing what the words that were coming out of their mouth. I was believing the people that they were telling me that they were. Um, Through this experience with them, I found out, or I realized that um, Brad, as you'll hear me speak to him, um, he tends to adjust reality a little bit for his benefit, and then he gets really loud and makes everybody kind of just shut up and listen, while he pretty much tells what his portion of reality, his perspective of reality is, and it wasn't aligning with what was going on. Colleen knew that I gave her the $5,000 because she was the one that I gave it to, and it did get, from what I've been told, was deposited into their bank. But I guess that information didn't get back to Brad, or he's just neglecting to remember it. My last conversation that I had with him, the conversation that I got from him was drastically different from the first one. The first conversation, he did recognize that he did have the money, and that it was just allocated for the well, and it wasn't a good idea to pull that money out, because when we were ready to do the well, we needed to have that money available. And then the story went to totally forgetting that I gave him the money, and 100% denying that I gave him the money, calling me a fraud and a liar, and telling me that I wasn't part of the family anymore. And the next time he wants to hear from me is through a lawyer. So I thought that was quite interesting, being somebody that is, when he's online and he's being Charlie Freak, he's promoting this honesty and dealing with brothers and figuring this out. But when something comes down that's dealing with him, he wants me to get a lawyer involved, and he's not willing to listen to his own partner that was telling him at that time that we do owe Aaron money. We told him that we would take care of it when we could, when silver went, which I guess silver's going a little bit now. And I don't know what exactly that meant. I always asked them, well, what does that mean for time frame? And they never really had an answer. The more time that went by, the more that I realized that they never have intentions of reimbursing me for that money. Especially with the last conversation that I had with Brad, is him totally forgetting that I gave him that money. He became very violent, and I've asked him multiple times to calm down. Colleen had to ask him multiple times to calm down. And this isn't abnormal for him. This is a common occurrence that I was used to seeing. That was, again, something that was behind the scenes, that was never out there. You probably might have been able to pick it up a little bit when he was online. There's just some key things that you could pick up. However, his temper is very quick. He likes to blow up very fast, and for no really good reason. And then 5 minutes later, it's like it's gone, and he's off to something else, and he'll blow up on something else or wherever he might be. So with this last conversation, it wasn't surprising that I got the response that I did. It was very disappointing, being that, one, I've been here the longest. I've been here pretty much from day one, with the original crew that came down here, and I guess made it through all of the stuff that happened. And I thought I built a good relationship with them. I spent quite a bit of time with Colleen every day for a good year or so, and we built a very intimate friendship. At times, I mean, we were calling each other best friends. There was conversations and information that nobody else knows except for her. That's how intimate this relationship became. My heart was with them. I have a lot of love for them, um, or who I thought they were. And this is the disappointing factor, is, giving giving your time and energy to somebody when they're portraying to be somebody and then they're not. Um, it's very hurtful, especially when they're online and they're promoting this in a big way. It wasn't I just met them on the street and it was, a relationship. This is something that's been broadcasted over the airways. It's the way that I met them. It's the way that I know about them. I didn't know about them before I saw the first video, the takedown of the Cabal A to Z. So all I did know about them was what they were portraying online. But that's why I wanted to meet him and come down and see him. So unfortunately, as much as I don't want to have this public and don't want to have this video aired, but this information is very critical. And it's more of a warning for anybody else that might have questions or maybe have asked, where did I go? The last year I've been pretty much have been off of online, haven't been online at all for the last year. And the year prior to that, very little, because I was building the house and going through this situation with Colleen and Brad. Prior to that, it was very spotty, but this is something that needs to come out. I was pretty much not going to say anything and let the universe take care of it, because I do know that there is karma and everybody has a balance to pay for. So they have their own karma with the decisions they made. So that's where I was at. What happened to Penny and Stuart in the short amount of time that they came down here was absolutely horrendous. How quick this happened. Before I exited Mexico the last time, Colleen had a conversation with me and asked me when I was going, how long I was staying, and she also informed me that Penny and Stuart were coming down, and if I wouldn't mind letting them stay in my rental. And it was a perfect timing for that. It made a lot of sense. I was leaving, they were coming in, they were part of the family. I knew Penny from way back when, from Josh X. We were both doing the food journey from that. We were both on Miraculous Mondays. It was a face that I was familiar with. Stuart I didn't know, but quickly became another brother of ours. He just quickly meshed in very well. So, but yeah, so when I was leaving, she informed me of that, and I left. And shortly later, probably, I don't know, 6 to 8 months, I got a message from them, hey, we need to talk. Didn't really get too many messages from them, little things here and there about the house, how to do this, what's about this, nothing much. But this conversation kind of came in, and it went a different direction. They informed me that they were having some issues here at the in Mexico with Charlie and Colleen, and they informed me of what was going on. And at that time, my heart sunk. It really did. It was. I hate to say it. It's bad enough it happens to me, but happening to somebody else makes it even worse for me. They didn't know what was going on. They walked into here with clear intentions, with good intentions, the same way I did, the same way Justin did, the same way everybody else did. I can't say everybody, I don't know everybody's intentions, so I do know about those. So, and it seemed like very quickly they were outed by Brad. It was something that when they started telling me what was happening, is very common occurrences that I would see or I'd have with Brad, that they were sharing with me, and I shared my my story with them for the first time and kind of let them know where I was with everything, and the reasons why I was leaving and stuff like that. So that this is basically like the tip of the iceberg. We need to get this video out to get people to understand more about what's really going on down here. They do a really good job about promoting a certain image that's happening. I can't say that they don't have animals, because they do. They do take care of them. They do get fed. The animals are better off than they were on the street. I could definitely agree with that. But to be a sanctuary, it's just not that. Unfortunately, I know they use that word quite a bit. It's in their title. It's what they use to get donations. And I just think it's wrong when it's not being applied to what they're promoting that it is. I know everybody has, they got to eat and they got to keep lights on, but there's also a level of doing what you say you're doing with the money when you're getting donations that aren't yours, that are other people's intentions for you to use for a certain project or a certain donation that you're claiming that this money is going to. I'm not saying that all money has been misused and misappropriated, but I do know there's quite a bit that has, because I have lost money with them, not donating money to them. I have donated quite a bit of money to them prior to me coming down, but when I was giving them money being allocated for a certain project and not being allocated for that project and being used for something else, I figured I should be informed of that. If I was managing anybody else's money, I would inform them of that, to let them know that this money is not being used for this, and we are thinking of using money for this. What do you think? Because this amount is yours and we were planning to use it. It would only be right to have that transparency in these conversations, especially dealing with money and money that is not yours, whether it is something given like I gave them, or they're getting donations for said projects or said donation. So I don't know if you guys want to add anything now.
I would like to add a couple of things, because we were told that Aaron was never invited down here, that he just showed up and wanted to stay in the house. And then we find Charlie saying the same thing about us on X, that we were told not to come, and we turned up anyway and just bought a house on their property. Well, that's all lies. I started conversations with Colleen on the 30th of October, saying that we would like to come down and help for a few months, and they came back with, we love that idea. So we went about selling our home, which was Stuart's family home. We gave away our dog, and we came over in March after 3 or 4 Zoom calls with them. Charlie saying, what a great idea, come over, I want to finish my book, you can look after the dogs.
The book.
And so that was how it all came about. So when we first arrived here, it took a couple of weeks before we were invited over to the Shire to meet Charlie, and it was great. We had a good conversation. It was about 6 weeks later that we started thinking about maybe looking at buying Aaron's half-built house and finishing it off. And Charlie was the one that decided that he wanted to talk to Aaron, and that if we called him on our phone, Aaron would answer, and so Charlie could then have a conversation with Aaron about the purchase of his home for us. And we had talked with Charlie and the builders, and they gave us a ballpark figure. So we discussed that with Aaron. His was a little higher, so Charlie said, no way, you guys are miracles. Aaron doesn't know the miracle that's going to happen to him, and we went on and on about what miracles we were. So this phone conversation went ahead, and the moment Aaron answered the phone, Charlie just went off. Abuse, loud, obnoxious abuse, and it was really quite embarrassing to witness. And I guess half an hour into the call, I tried to take the phone away from Charlie, and he said no, no. And then a few minutes later, Colleen tried to do the same, and he actually raised a fist to her, and that was it. We got up and left and walked outside, waited for the conversation to end. Charlie came out with the phone about half an hour later and gave me the phone, and Aaron was still on it. I was surprised. So I just apologised profusely to Aaron, and we decided just to let things cool off, and we were going to talk again about it later. But that was our first experience of Charlie just getting so angry and just so out of control. It should have been a red flag to us at the time, but we just kind of decided just to let it go and hope it wasn't going to happen again. But it was only a couple of weeks later that we got our first lecture, 2.5 hours, and it just went on and on and on, and he was telling us over and over how wrong everything about Justin and Aaron was, what they did to him and Colleen by going to Dallas and being funded by someone who was paying for all their motels and hotels and food and travel, and that he felt some of that should have come to the Shire, that they were taking the donations instead of passing it on, which I don't believe any of that. I think Aaron's a very honest person, and the money that was being given to them to fund in Dallas was nothing to do with Charlie and Colleen, nothing to do with the Shire. But Charlie went on and on about that over and over, month after month. We never heard the end of Aaron and Justin and Dallas and Michael Proxman, and in ourselves we could see him turning into Michael Proxman. He was just doing coding shows. He spent every afternoon sitting watching TV for his coding shows, and the dogs that he was supposedly looking after were just left to mope around the house. No toys, no play, no exercise, nothing. We were seeing that the donations that were coming in were going to these fantasy projects, not to the animals, not to the shelter, not to the flood work that he went on and on about prior to us coming, when we arrived, and for the first few months after we arrived. He talked about this flood work needing to be done, but the fantasy projects took precedence, and this castle bed that they were making downstairs, if they needed to lie down, had dragons and all sorts of things attached to it. It was massive. So the donations that were coming in for the flood work never got used on the flood work, because the flood work got done, the concreting was done, and we got handed the bill. We had to pay the wages for the builders, even though it was nothing to do with us, nothing to do with our house. So that's when the first red flag started to come up, that we were going to end up paying a lot more than we had budgeted for. And just like Aaron says, the money just seems to disappear over there. So once we decided to purchase the house and we had paid Aaron, we talked with Charlie and Colleen about fundraising for the shelter, because all the farmyard animals were living inside the house, and the builders were unable to start the house until we got the animals out. They did try, but it was very difficult. They were making a patio that the animals were walking through the concrete all the time.
Which this place was never meant to have animals in there. It was never going to be a farmyard. It was always going to be a place for humans to live and not for animals. And it's very interesting. They, I guess, started to use my house as a shelter for the animals. I think prior to even me leaving, which I think is kind of funny. They kind of like just stole my house from me and moved animals in there for whatever reason. I guess they had somebody else living in the other area that the animals were living. Geraldine is living over there, and that was the farmyard, that was the animal area. They spent money over there to build the property for the animals prior to Geraldine, and I guess for whatever reason it was decided that Geraldine gets to live with the animals, and then I guess for Charlie or Brad thought it was a good idea to move the animals in my house without again letting me know or informing me of anything. So yeah.
So they called it the barn, and we started fundraising for the shelter, and there was a lot of money coming in, quite a lot of money over May, June, July, August, I think, as well, right up until Colleen and Shane started planning their trip to move Shane out of Canada and down to Florida. And then
that's when Charlie started putting the responsibility of us paying for all of it. And he says, no, you guys agreed. We told you guys we didn't have the money for this, when they clearly did.
Yeah, and clearly we had said, let's start fundraising for it, so that we didn't have to pay for it. But anyway, all the donations, thousands and thousands, was shifted to Colleen and Shane's road trip instead. And we had to pay. We were bullied into it to say, if you want the animals out of your house, you're going to have to build this shelter. So it took 3.5 months, $15,000 US to do. And basically that was the end of our budget for building our home.
At no stage were we consulted on the scale and size of this place, or how much it was going to cost. I asked Charlie out in the yard one day, have you any plans for this? And he says, no, not really, we're just going to build off those 2 walls and I was like, fuck right there on, I hope it doesn't cost that much.
We were told about a month, it would take about a month and maybe cost a few thousand. We had no idea. He meant 15,000 in 3.5 months with 5 builders. That was costing us a fortune. So that was kind of the end of us being able to continue building the house, and all we had was a patio and a septic tank.
And that's like a lot of these builds that are happening over there is there's all these projects going on, and they take an absorbent amount of time, and there's an absorbent amount of money, and I'm not even sure if they realize how much money they're dumping into it. And if they are, that's shame on them, because this is all the money that needs to be going to the animals. This is all the money that needs to go to make the living environment of the animals, expanding their community and not keeping them, in the house and just ransacking that house. I mean, you walk around that house and you're cleaning up piss and shit all day long. There's not a day that doesn't go by that there's just piss and shit everywhere in that house, because they don't have a yard to work in. Brad has concreted everything in that whole entire property. He wanted to concrete the property between us. He wanted to concrete my yard, and I said no, that we're not concreting everything. It doesn't give a good environment for the house. It's not as loving as an environment as they say it is, and the money that they're getting is not being put forth towards the animals like they said. Yeah, I have seen some areas being started to kind of be changed for the animals, but then it goes away, and then it turns into some art project for Colleen and an expanse of their house for them, and then it just gets moved away from what they're getting the donations for, and it's for the animals. So yeah,
all of it. Like every time Charlie's asking for money, it's for the animals, but none of it goes towards the animals. They've built a shop. There's a huge shop there for, I don't know what they're going to sell or what the intentions were. All the beautiful, fantastic sculptures and everything outside around the gardens and things, but they're never used. They don't seem to spend any time outside. While the animals are living in the house that Aaron built, and the yard that is just not really suitable, and now there's a horse there that's just almost wild because they haven't spent any time with it apart from giving it a bottle of milk and then leaving it, and it's grown up with the builders in a builder's yard. It's been knocked around a bit, and now they're looking at having to hire someone to train it. So they just seem to acquire animals so they can get more donations.
Well, yeah, they not only acquire them, they go buy them from pet stores.
They
and
buy
that's
rabbits
where
from the pet store.
it doesn't make sense that, like purchasing animals from a pet store isn't saving animals. I mean, yeah, I guess you're getting a couple out of there, but then that's not a sanctuary, and it's a very unhealthy habit that they've created about hoarding these animals for the guise of making money on it.
Yeah, yeah. The last dog that was left at the gate, they didn't take it. They gave it to Geraldine, so she now has 4 dogs as well. They wouldn't take it. Yeah, there's the story of the parrots. When we first came, we saw the parrots in the market, and they were in a pretty bad way. So Stuart and I purchased the parrots. It was about 150 US. Colleen said, at the end of the month, when the money comes in, we'll pay you back. And so we thought, wow, they didn't have enough money. We felt really bad about that, and that we'd put another burden on them. So we gave them £1,000 to use for the birds, but never saw where that went. None of it goes to the animals. They go out a lot, they eat out a lot, they do a lot of personal stuff, dentists, hairdressers, and just fantasy projects. Charlie's next big fantasy project was to build a Christmas village in between our house and their house.
Which is on the street. The
land that they took in between was a thoroughfare to the fields behind the house, and Charlie just took it, fenced it, concreted it, and now he wants to build a Christmas village there with lots of little shops and all authentic, kind of English looking, with slate roofs and wooden tiling, and it's just, all of this stuff is funded from donations. Their whole entire house has been renovated with donations, and everything they do is with donations. They don't, Charlie says he has a small pension. Maybe you can draw your Canadian pension from the age of 60, you get a decrease on it. So if that's what they're living on, it's not a lot, but they're not paying much for the house. They've had the electrician rewire the house, so they don't even pay much of a power bill. They took the house, they took the land, so really they are living on donations, and we didn't see any of that going towards the animals apart from vet visits, and there's a lot of vet visits. So in that way, maybe you can say they're looking after the animals, but the last vet visit that we know about was to take Frodo and I think Friholy to get some teeth pulled. So I'm not sure why you'd need to pull dogs' teeth.
Just an unhealthy diet.
They live on lots of cooked food. So yeah, they just have a lifestyle that they need funding for, and the staff are great. If they knew what the staff, if the staff knew what he'd said about them on X and what he'd said about us on X, they'd be pretty appalled. We had a really good relationship with Lulu Inside and Lalo the Builder, both of which are still our friends and still helping us, and we really love these guys. They are genuine, beautiful people, real, heart and soul Mexicans that I feel Brad is exploiting. But, this is for their lifestyle. They have 2 staff inside, 2 staff outside, so they don't really lift a finger. Charlie feeds the dogs in the morning. I know that Colleen hangs out with the cats a lot and does her artwork, goes clothing shopping. But, there's very little play with the dogs. There's 16 dogs, 8 out at a time, 8 in a cage, and I don't think they have a very good life.
Stu,
Through our observations and inquiries, we've spoken to quite a few people who have been here since 2020. A lot of those people have dropped a lot of cash here, and some have even dropped quite a quantity of silver. It's clear the money isn't going to the animals or developing shelters for the animals. There's a lot of property acquisition going on and a lot of property development going on for their personal acquisition. So that's very clear. So I would like to know where all the money is gone, and I definitely think these guys should be audited. That's what charities do. If you run a charity and you're taking donations off people, you're very transparent. You should be transparent on exactly where every cent and penny of that money is going. And if we're all sitting here telling a pack of lies, then let them come forward with the books and show. If they're completely legit, come out and show it. We'll do a show with them. We'll do anything, because they'll tell you why. We've got all the WhatsApp messages. We've got videos and pictures, and we've got all the receipts from PayPal. Okay? We've been donating to these guys since 2020. About £20 a month. And when Charlie was saying they were struggling and the followers were dropping, we would have given twice a month. And we actually sent lump sums in between that as well. Just last year, 2024, I sent him £400 for a microphone for the show, because his voice gets a bit echoey and irritating, and I thought a microphone, you would take that away and cut out the brittleness of his voice. No microphone ever appeared. Neither did an explanation of what he'd done with the money, which I thought was really, really rude, because 400's a lot of money for me, because, I mean, you know, we're all working class people and there's nobody rich here. So I think there's more questions to answer than we have, because there's people coming on Penny's Facebook calling us names and you're this and that and all and that. Go and ask them. Go and ask them where the donations are going. Go and ask them who paid $15,000 to build their animal shelter.
They need to be accountable, and people keep saying there's two sides to every story, but they don't believe us. They because Charlie is who Charlie is, but he's not who he is. They're not fruitarian. They never have been. That's just a blatant lie. We know from day one when Marie and Danny arrived, they were invited out for French fries straight away. So this tells me they've never been fruitarian. When I first found them, I was in Portugal. I had a husband who was dying, and I thought this is the best thing I could do for him was to get him on fruit, see if I could heal him. I asked Colleen for help many times and just never got a response. She put me on to Josh X. So it was Josh that helped me and changed my life around and got me as a fruitarian. Unfortunately, it was a bit late for my husband, but you know, I tried, and through the whole process of losing my husband and gaining my health and moving forward as a fruitarian and starting my journey with another fruit family member that I met, and we were flatting together. She was great. We started a page of our own, a group of our own, Simple Fruit Life on Facebook, which we still have today with Stuart and myself and Deborah Mickley and Parda's there.
Fastest growing fruit group on the internet.
When we came here in March, we had 1,800 people. We've just had 4,500 today, and we help lots and lots of people go from a sad diet to a healthy, raw, vegan diet. And we believed this was because of Charlie and Colleen. And we find out that it's not, that they are not who they say they are. And they are really just hypocrites. And they need to tell the truth, you know. They say they're going to do a show about us.
Bring it on.
Because they think we're mentally unstable and that we fight all the time. And it's just not true. They're the ones that fight all the time. The abuse that we've seen hurled at Colleen from Charlie is astounding. And we know we're not the only ones who've seen the abuse.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely firsthand. We actually, somebody was here. They got called by Brad to come over at the time. So myself, Justin, and this other person went over there, and it was shocking and eye-opening what I saw from Brad. That was my first time realizing that this person was not this persona that he was portraying to be, and it was just another person. His name was Brad, and he was dealing with a lot of demons, and he still is dealing with a lot of demons today. He has a very controlling personality. very
Aggressive.
very narcissistic. And the aggressiveness that he has, I mean, even the animals, they're frightened of him. They don't, like, again, it's not the loving environment that you think that would be there from how he portrays it online and on the videos. It doesn't have that same feeling when the camera is off. And I could say that because I've been there. I've been there in front of the cameras with them, I've been there on the video with them, and I've been there after the video's been closed, and I lived with them for a little bit. I stayed over there every single day. I've seen this from my own eyes, my own experience, and it's not healthy. It's definitely not healthy for the animals. It's not healthy for Colleen. I've heard it from Colleen's mouth that she's not happy, that she would like to not be there, but she's kind of felt stuck. And these are coming out of her mouth. Whether she is honest with this or not, probably not. I could only assume this video is going to get a lot of backlash from them, but that's okay. As Charlie would say it, you don't have to worry when you're standing in the truth. I'm not worrying. I'm standing in the truth.
We all are.
I am standing in the truth, and I always have. Before meeting Brad and Colleen, and I will never change. I've always had a moral standing with myself to be in the truth. Sure, we mess up. Sure, we make mistakes, but I've made it a habit of my own to check myself. He is not the person that he says he is. It doesn't seem that he's trying to be that person. When the camera goes off, he could turn into whatever person he was. There is no modalities that I see them do. I don't see them practicing much. I mean, sure, I do. Yeah, he has a smoothie every day. He has a juice every day. I mean, the days I was there, some days he doesn't, but the majority of it. But that's also backed with a lot of cooked food. I mean, there's a morning food and an afternoon food. It's all cooked from day one. That's never changed. I've mentioned something along the years about what he was eating, and some of it changed because there's a lot of products with labels. And for me, it was shocking to see all these labels in their fridges, and this is what they eat, and this is how they eat. And I think my food habit was kind of shocking to them when I first came down. I was on about a year at that time of straight orange juice. I didn't consume anything else. And that continued for another half a year. I continued a year and a half with strictly just oranges, mostly orange juice. And towards the end, I started eating the oranges and juicing them in my mouth. But it was never the frugivore lifestyle was never present here. I definitely brought it here, as well as the other people that were here. Justin was full frugivore at that time. I'm pretty sure that Marie and Danny were not. There was a lot of cooked food in restaurants from them at that time, which I don't care. I have no judgment. I mean, everybody has their own journey. At one time, I was eating meat and stuff, and I transitioned over. So everybody's going to go through a transition period, and it's not for me to judge anybody. So that's what I gave them. I gave them that same thing I gave everybody else. That, you know what, you guys are just in transition. I kind of talked to them, and more Colleen. Brad would never have these normal conversations. It was always like Professor Charlie walking around the house, and any interactions that you would get from Brad would be Professor Charlie all the time. So it wasn't bad. Sometimes it was fun because it was enlightening. It was things that it was gnosis that I had as well, so I could relate to it. But then it became very overpowering and more of, I'm telling you this, and this is coming from me kind of thing. So yeah.
So one of the last things that happened the last time we saw these guys, we were invited out for lunch again. Prior to this, we had declined most of the time because we don't like food, we don't like the restaurants they eat in, where there's always meat cooked in the same place, there's all the food being cooked. So Colleen made a comment to Stuart and I that the only joy in her life was food, and we found that pretty shocking for people who call themselves Essenes every Saturday on their lives. And another quote that we have also found quite stunning is Charlie saying, the more drama they have, the more money they get from donations. And since we heard that, I guess maybe 6 weeks ago, we've watched the drama and we've seen it on X over and over now. So there's a pattern to this drama. And
you could see the embellishment in the way that he speaks about it online. You could see the embellishment when he's posting on X or his post. I haven't read him lately, but just the way that he would deliver that information is very dramatic, and it's, it gets you, right?
Yeah, you feel for them. Like the whole Colleen making the popcorn for the dogs as a treat, and they broke her phone. Colleen's phone had a broken screen when we arrived here. It's always had a broken screen. Colleen makes popcorn most nights, according to Geraldine. It's the two of them. It's their favourite snack. Most nights they have popcorn. I don't think it's for the dogs. So these things are not quite true. And yes, Colleen needs a new phone, but they have had a lot of money come in since we've been here. And I know of lump sums that have come from people who worship these guys and won't listen to us. They are still fundraising like crazy to make all this money for Charlie and Colleen's animals, but it's not for the animals. We really want that to be very clear. It's not for the animals, it's for their lifestyle and their fantasy projects, and that's all.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I don't have judgment on people. It's people can do what they want, right? It's my decision whether I align with them or not. But when people are going online and portraying to be somebody or to be something, or they're going to do something, and they're saying that this is what's happening, and things aren't happening that way, I believe light needs to be brought to this darkness that's happening, where they're allowed to get online, lie to, hundreds or thousands of people, get thousands of dollars of donations because of those lies, then they are able to turn off the camera and live a totally different lifestyle. That's wrong. And I mean, what they've done, I do give Charlie Freak credit for putting out the gnosis that he has in the past. That gnosis, for me, isn't there anymore. That connection that he used to have is gone. The shows that have been coming out from them are very repetitious. They're very stagnant. They don't have very much anything new. It's going over current events and some coding and then just kind of rehashing this. Who is bad's not bad. Who is good is not good. Just this over and over. So the Charlie Freak that I learned about back in 2020 is definitely not there, especially after meeting him and meeting Brad and having a personal relationship with this guy Brad. He is not the same person online, unfortunately. I would love to be here saying something different, but it's just not. So with that, I don't know if there's anything else from anybody. I do want to kind of bring this to a close. We've been here for about an hour. This isn't going to be the last video. I'm not going to put a date on the next one if there is going to be one, but I know that this is going to continue. The light that needs to be brought to this is important, not just for myself, but for people that are listening, and then maybe that are invested in this persona of Charlie Freak, and if I can help somebody that's innocent in this thing, to give them more light, that's what I'm here to do. That's why I'm making this video. My hope is that they deal with this personally with us. They come to myself and Penny and Stuart and make right of these wrongs. I would plead with them through this video right now that would be the best thing for them to do publicly. It doesn't need to happen publicly, but public acknowledgement that it did happen would be wonderful. I do believe that this should be held privately, but if they choose not to and they choose to keep on pushing the narrative that they are. They keep on slandering my name online for no reason when I have done nothing other than keep this private. I feel that I have to come out and say something. It's wrong what they're doing. They're promoting that they're in the right. They're promoting that they're the only ones that are doing the work, and then the only ones that know what's going on. That's far from the truth. That's the biggest lie that I've ever heard coming out of anybody's mouth. Because we're not. I'm not the only one doing the work. Penny and Stuart aren't the only ones doing the work. There's a lot of us. That's why we're here as a community. That's why we need to be transparent. That's why we have to voice these things that are tough to say. I did have a good year to realize what's going on, so I can come out clearly and speak about it, and that's what I'm doing. So with that, if there isn't anything from Stuart and Penny, I'm going to bring this to a close, but if there's anything, go ahead and add it.
Penny and I have done an audio interview where we've given her full catalogue of the past 9 or 10 months. If anybody would like to listen to it, get in touch with Penny on our social media.
Yeah, send a message on this is going to be posted on my YouTube. I'll be periodically checking the chat. It's public, so anybody can see it. Anybody can share it. They could draw people to this. I hope the family members that are a part of my channel that do know who I am, just please listen to it. Not asking you to believe it, not asking you to believe every word that I say, but just listen to it. Give it a shot. There's two sides to every story. You haven't heard my side. This is the first time that I'm coming out. This is the first time that you're hearing my side of what's happening. I know that Brad has slandered my name over the last year publicly, and also privately with Penny and Stuart. So I can only assume that wasn't the only time. If you know, so and I've done. I feel I've done nothing other than being helpful to them during this time that I've been here. Extremely helpful in multiple different ways: monetarily, physically, emotionally. I was here for him as a best friend, as a brother. So with that, thank you everybody for your time. We love you, and talk to you soon.